Welcome back to the Metal Gear The Complete Story video series. The last two episodes brought us from Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater all the way up to Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. If you need a recap, or you just don't understand what happened quite yet, click either of the videos down below. As for this video, we're going to be going over the games Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2. At the end of the first game, we're going to be going over our usual recap. So if you really don't want to watch the first videos, don't worry, you won't be too lost. But come on, really? You don't want to just go watch the first two? I mean, it's only like 20 minutes total. It explains everything. You could just watch those, give them a like, share them with your friends. It would really help us out. One last thing before we jump in, we're going to go over our little disclaimer like usual. Before we go into this and everyone tears into the comments telling us that we didn't cover this bit of the game or we didn't explain the reasoning behind this obscure character's motives, we're going to be focused on the overall story, and we plan to bring you enough information so that you understand the general motives and the gameplay plot twists without completely blowing your mind. And trust me, if you watch the first two videos, you're already lost, so you don't need us to bring up all that extra stuff and explain all the little itty-gritty nitty stuff that doesn't make any sense when you look at the overall picture. Alright, with all of that out of the way, let's get started again. 1980 to 1989, Big Boss and his army fight in a variety of wars to build up their names. 1990, Solid Snake. Oh my god, I have such a schoolgirl crush on him. Okay, we won't do this again. Back to the serious voice. Solid Snake fights in the first Gulf War for the US while Liquid fights for the SAS, and he's captured in Iraq. 1991, Big Boss returns to America and takes control of Foxhound. He does this to keep an eye on the US from the inside, while Outer Heaven is conducting its own plans. Outer Heaven is Big Boss's militaristic nation that he's planning on using to try and take back the fight to Major Zero. 1994, Liquid Snake is freed. And this leads us up to Metal Gear, the game that started it all, takes place in 1995. Now real quick, just kind of bear with us on this one. It's going to be a lot of pictures because the gameplay for the first Metal Gear is on the Nintendo. So it's a little bit 8-bit and a little bit old school. We're going to give you gameplay, but we're going to do a lot of pictures. The US learns that the nation of Outer Heaven is building its own Metal Gear unit. In response, they send in the unit Foxhound and place them in charge of defeating it. For those keeping track, as of right now, the Foxhound unit is being controlled by Big Boss, who unbeknownst to them also runs Outer Heaven. Initially, Big Boss sends in Gray Fox to accomplish this mission. Gray Fox fails and is captured. At this time, Big Boss sends in Solid Snake, his rookie soldier, to save Gray Fox and accomplish the original mission. Now for those keeping track, also, Big Boss is the genetic father of Solid Snake. But Solid Snake doesn't know that at this time, and Big Boss isn't telling. I sense a Jerry Springer moment. Solid Snake proceeds to save Gray Fox and then move on to finishing Gray Fox's original mission of destroying the Metal Gear. But to stop him from doing it, Big Boss sends him into traps, eventually telling him to even abort the mission. But Solid Snake perseveres, and eventually Big Boss has to step in himself. Big Boss reveals himself as the leader of Outer Heaven, and he took the role of the commander of Foxhound so that he could stop the US from stopping his Metal Gear. His goal is to delay and stall this mission long enough so that Outer Heaven could finish the Metal Gear. Solid Snake defeats Big Boss and the Metal Gear and sets the entire facility to a self-destruct. He then leaves Big Boss for dead and shuts the door without checking. At this time, Big Boss is just considered He was just considered crazy. But knowing what we know about the events all the way back from the first game, we know that Big Boss was actually just trying to have his personal war with Major Zero's Patriots. In the end, Big Boss survives and rescues everyone from Outer Heaven before NATO can bomb the facility. He brings them all to safety in the Middle East. At the end of the entire event, Solid Snake is made a full member of Foxhound. Alright, it's time for the recap to include everything, so that way you are not lost and you know what's going on. And we gotta keep doing this, because this is Metal Gear, and it's just gonna get even more confusing. Back in Snake Eater, Boss, the original super soldier, got a ton of money for the US by pretending to defect. Big Boss defeated her, taking the legacy for the US and forever branding her a traitor to the nation for being loyal. This caused Big Boss to become angry with the US and the secret society that was controlling them at the time, the Philosophers. Zero and Ocelot caused a rebellion to draw out the last of the Philosophers and the missing half of the legacy. Their goal succeeded, allowing them to kill the last of the Philosophers and take the rest of the money. Big Boss, Major Zero, and Ocelot had billions of dollars, an army, and the plans and the location of where to build their own military-based nation. Using all of this, they created a super-secret, shady organization that was in control of the entire American government. Yet no one knows it exists, meaning it's secret. Big Boss then fell into a coma, and Major Zero acquired his DNA to create super soldier clones. Solid Snake, Liquid Snake, and Solidus were all born, children of Big Boss that he never gets to know. Furious that this has happened and the corrupted direction that they are taking the original plan, Big Boss leaves the Patriots to wander the world. Big Boss spent his time building up his own army and has announced that he would create his own nation known as Outer Heaven. He built this up in secret while he went back to work for the US, taking control of their unit Foxhound to keep an eye on the workings of the US from the inside. Big Boss attempted to build his own Metal Gear to use in a war against Major Zero's Patriots, but this plan was stopped by Solid Snake. Solid Snake is now a full member of Foxhound, continuing his missions, while Big Boss has escaped Outer Heaven with his soldiers. Now let's move forward. 1997, the Central Asia nation of Zanzibar gains independence from Russia by force, secretly led by Big Boss. 1999, and this brings us to the second official release in the series, Metal Gear 2: Solid Snake. A major oil crisis seriously affects the global economy in 1999. As a countermeasure, a scientist named Dr. Marv has created a synthetic oil. The answer to all the world's oil problems seems like something a small independent nation of Zanzibar would be interested in, so they up and kidnap the scientist. NATO discovers that the leader of Zanzibar land planned to hold the rest of the world hostage by controlling the oil supply. They are using yet another nuclear-armed Metal Gear and a series of smaller, non-nuclear Metal Gears to defend their new investment. In response to this, the US has Colonel Roy Campbell, the new leader of Foxhound, the same Roy Campbell Big Boss saved back in Portable Ops. They have him send in the top Foxhound agent, Solid Snake, on Christmas Eve to save the good doctor. After learning how Big Boss survived in the bombing from NATO in the last game, Solid Snake rescues the doctor. But as he frees him, Gray Fox stops their rescue in a Metal Gear. Gray Fox, also known as Frank Yeager, is another soldier Big Boss saved back in 1966 if you remember correctly. Or you could check that last video where we go over how Big Boss saved him. Before they can end their fight, Solid Snake tries to catch up to the doctor only to find him dead. But the mission is not a failure, as Solid Snake takes the formula for the synthetic oil. But before he can get away with it, Gray Fox shows up again for his rematch. Solid Snake, air quote, kills, end air quote, Gray Fox, and then meets up with Big Boss, the mastermind behind the Zanzibar Land Island plans. Solid Snake turns into MacGyver and creates a flamethrower out of a lighter and an aerosol can and proceeds to burn and, air quote, kill, end air quote, Big Boss again. Are you noticing a trend? No one really stays dead in this series. Before he died though, Big Boss dropped a bomb of news on Solid Snake that he was in fact his father, in a sense, kind of. Are you ready for it? The big plot twist? Well, this game wasn't followed up by any really. But here's what happened to the characters. Solid Snake went into retirement, moving to the Alaskan wilderness to live in solitude. Big Boss's body was recovered by the Patriots. They placed his body on ice and managed to revive him in a comatose state using nanomachines. His body and genes would once again be used to try and create the perfect soldiers, this time for the genome soldiers involved in the upcoming Shadow Moses mission. His body was kept around, though, by an old and sentimental Major Zero. The fact that Major Zero did this pissed off Ocelot, who secretly began to plot against Major Zero and the Patriots. As usual, since we're at the end of the video, it's time to give you a full-blown recap on everything, just to help you keep track of the entire plot and storyline. So let's get right back into it. Gonna try and do this one a little bit faster. Way back in the beginning, Boss, the original soldier with all the plans, was sent in to pretend that she was, in fact, betraying the US to learn the location of the legacy, a ton of money. Big Boss defeated the supposed traitor, taking control of all the money for the US and earning his title. He learned that she was just following orders in the end, and the whole thing was orchestrated by the Philosophers, a secret organization in charge of the US. His friends Major Zero and Ocelot use a revolution to gain the rest of the Philosophers' money, an army, and the plans to create a nation. They use all this power to make their own super-secret shady organization known as the Patriots and take complete control of the US government. Big Boss then fell into a coma, and Major Zero took his baby gravy to make his children known as the Clones. Solid Snake, Liquid Snake, and Solidus are all born. Big Boss awakens and is furious over this and the direction that the Patriots are going. This in turn causes him to lead the Patriots and wander the world. His time is spent building his own army in his own military-based nation and a Metal Gear. He then tries to put his Metal Gear online so that he can continue his personal war and fight with Major Zero and the Patriots, his ex-group. Solid Snake comes in and defeats Big Boss, causing him to flee with what he has left. Big Boss helps the Zanzibar nation become an independent nation, and behind the scenes begins a power play to control all the oil on the planet. Solid Snake once again goes in and stops Big Boss, this time bringing him to near death. Solid Snake retires from the military, and Big Boss's body is recovered and kept in a coma and on ice. The Patriots are continuing their control over the US government. Oh, and Ocelot is working against them from the inside somehow now. Well, I hope you enjoyed this latest episode in the Metal Gear The Complete Story series. We are very soon going to be starting more complete stories involving Zelda, Dark Souls, Kingdom Hearts, and various other games. So why don't you go ahead and leave a comment down below of what games you think we should cover. Next time, we're going to see the Clones return, a virus that can kill anyone, more Metal Gears, and we're going to discover where Ocelot went this whole time. Now don't forget to follow us on Twitter so you'll know when the latest videos comes out, or follow us on Facebook because we'll also post it there. Or you could just, subscribe to the channel for more videos. Also, comment down below what your favorite Metal Gear is and why.